The next category of measures that we can take after physical is dynamic security. And dynamic security can be described as the process of looking for patterns in intelligence, closely monitoring of gang members, sharing of information, building close relationships with external agencies and partnerships to share that intelligence, along with tackling the drug and violence issues within the prison. And there's a number of different ways that they can do that. So the first is the main concept of dynamic security is based upon surveillance and intelligence gathering. And this could include listening to prisoners' phone calls, reading prisoners' incoming and outgoing mail, and depending on the prisoner, even recording some of the conversations that they have with visitors. This is to try and gain some information about the possibility of this prisoner either committing more crimes while in prison, organizing additional crimes to happen outside of prison while they're in there, or also just speaks to the state of mind that the prisoner is in terms of how they can support that person. Prison staff will also monitor their everyday activities, their normal activities. Is their behavior what they would expect from a person in that position, in that situation? Has their behavior changed over the past couple of days, over the past couple of weeks? Have they seen any change in their behavior which might indicate a deterioration of their mental health, or an increased risk of aggression, or an increased risk of committing more crimes within prison? And to try and do this, it's really important that they get to know the prisoners. And to do this, they have a process called constructive regime. And this is where they try and build up good relationships between staff and prisoners to be able to support this aspect of dynamic security. It tries to build trust between the prisoners and the staff, and with this trust, prisoners are more likely to come and give information to the staff about suspicious activities or any concerns that they have for either their own well-being or safety or somebody else's. Another aspect of dynamic security is looking at the activities that is provided for the prisoners. And it's around trying to keep them occupied and give them an opportunity to re-educate. And this could be something as simple as exercise or entertainment. And when they're doing this, they are not thinking about committing more crimes while in prison or trying to break out, but also trying to prepare them for when they leave prison and have to readjust back into the world. So they may provide counseling and therapy, and depending on why they're in there, they may end up with drugs rehabilitation, and trying to give them the best opportunity once they are back on the outside. They would provide qualifications and training for the people so that they have a future to go out to. You are less likely to try and commit a crime or to try and cause problems within the prison system if you feel like you have a future. So qualifications and training are really important for the rehabilitation of inmates. And finally, the third type or category of security measures is procedural security. And procedural security looks at the processes used to maintain security. Simply, it's ensuring that the physical and the dynamic security policies, that's spelled wrong, but the policies and procedures are always carried out. Now, this could include identifying possible security risks and trying to put measures in place to deal with them. So again, part of the dynamic security is collecting information, using that information to assess the risk to other prisoners, to staff, and possibly to the general public, and trying to put measures in place to prevent that. So if we know somebody is going to become violent, we have a process, maybe isolation, to stop that happening. And that goes along with the physical risks to inmates and staff. If we can check and anticipate when somebody is going to pose a physical risk, we can isolate them, we can take measures to make sure that that risk is reduced. The procedural security will also be the completion of all associated documents and records required by law. We are removing somebody's individual liberty. We are taking away their freedom. So it is really important that we follow the law exactly as it is laid out. And the documentation there will make sure that everything is above board, that everyone is treated fairly, everyone's human rights are adhered to. And finally, the categorization of the custodial environment by the risk presented of the offender. So we have a way of working out exactly which prison the offenders should be placed in. And to do that, we have a number of factors that we have to look at. So a male adult aged 21 and over will receive the categorization very soon after entering prison. The number of factors that they have to look at. First one is the severity of the crime that the person has been charged with. The bigger the crime, the more secure the prison needs to be. They look at the likelihood of escape. So even if the person has not committed a severe crime, if they are very likely to try and escape and flee, well, then that will also increase their categorization. It's the length of sentence given. So somebody who's given a couple of months is less likely to try and escape or to cause more harm, as opposed to somebody who has been given a life sentence. And also, we have to take into consideration the risk that this person holds to the public. What if this person escapes? What harm could they do to the public? And that will also, if we think that they are at risk of causing great harm to the public, that will also increase their categorization. Offenders under the age of 21 will be sent to a secure training center, which are more focused on education, but they can still hold offenders up to 17 years. So they can still provide for life sentences, but they are more focused around the rehabilitation and education of young people, as opposed to just the normal prisons. So next is your research task. So can you research the different categories of prisons for both male and female? They are slightly different that we have here in the UK. Provide a description of each type of prison that would be sent to that type of category of prison, and then give an example of a prison which matches that category. So do some research, find a prison which matches each category, and give some examples of the type of prison it is and the type of person that would get sent there, or prisoner that would get sent there. Again, fill your answers in on OneNote, which should be just below this task, or this video, should I say. And then after that, the final task is I want you to find one example of a recent prison escape. I mean recent as in the past few years, not 40 years ago. And write some notes about the incident. So the when, the why, the where, the how it happened, and can you identify any failures in the physical, dynamic, or procedural security which allowed this escape to happen?